Hello everyone, Satanic Blessings. So I did a reading. Well, I basically wanted to know, and I personally asked Lucifer, Father Lucifer, I personally asked him what he feels about the Black Lives Matter movement. Because I wanted to, I wanted to get to the bottom of this. I personally was, have been skeptical of it. And I always say, if you follow me on my Facebook page, I always say all lives matter. And I mean that in the true term of that, meaning everybody should be on the same page and we're all a team. And not the way some people think all lives matter means. Like some people think that it means it's a undercover way, a passive-aggressive way of being racist. But I personally say, when I say all lives matter, I actually mean all lives matter, that we're together as a team. So I asked Father Lucifer what he feels about the Black Lives Matter movement, because I personally felt like that it was going to cause problems and more of a divide in our country. So I pulled 3 cards, and we're going to start with the first one. The first one is the Knight of Swords. And I'll just read all the cards. The second one is the Hanged Man, which is a major arcana. Holds a lot of weight. And the third one is the Knight of Wands. So it's interesting. We have the Knight of Swords and the Knight of Wands. The Knight of Swords, let me just focus. There's a lot of detail in this deck. This is one of my newer decks. It's the Rackham Tarot deck by Lo Scarabeo, if anyone's interested. And there's a lot of detail in here. Oh, okay. So the Knight of Swords indicates the law enforcement and the police. And if you could see by this picture, they're charging ahead with vengeance. This card means that the law enforcement and police department is being brutal and lacks empathy and is charging ahead, laying down the law. If this card is very self-explanatory. If you look, this is the knight riding his horse, charging ahead, plowing ahead, and not caring about who or what gets in his way. He's going to go ahead and do what he wants and plow right through, no matter who it hurts. So this Knight of Swords represents, and I asked it about our, United States. I specifically, because I speak specifically and I word things specifically to get the clearest answer without any discrepancies. So I asked about Father's opinion about the Black Lives Matter movement in the United States. So this Knight of Swords represents the brutal and ruthless and very powerful law enforcement and police officers in the United States. The second card is the Hanged Man. And this card refers to, for this reading, seeing things in a different perspective, looking at things from the other side. And the third card is the Knight of Wands. And this, and you could just look at this. You could see the woman on the horse, and her hands are just right up in the air for glory and victory. And if you look at her, it could almost remind you of what a protester would look like at one of the protests. So this card represents the protesters and the Black Lives Matter movement, changing the world for the better. So I'll go over it again. The Knight of Swords represents the brutality and ruthlessness of the police force in our country, the United States. The Hanged Man represents looking at things from a different perspective, a different point of view. And the Knight of Wands represents activists achieving their goal of making the world see things differently. The protesters in the Black Lives Matter movement want to show the world. They want to change everyone's outlook. They want people to see things differently. They want prejudiced people to see things from the point of view of the people that they're prejudiced against. The protesters, Black Lives Matter movement, want, the hardcore racist people and prejudiced people to put themselves in the shoes of the people that they oppress or do not like, to put themselves in their shoes and see the world through their eyes, different perspective. So what I gather here is that Father thinks the Black Lives Matter movement is very positive. That's what I'm picking up from this message. So this is a very straightforward response. There's no deceit or nothing negative about the Black Lives Matter movement from this spread. Father thinks that this is a very good way. Okay, let me word it better. Father thinks that the protesters and the Black Lives Matter movement are changing the world. They're changing the world, and they're changing the way people view Black people or minorities and people who are oppressed. So that's what they're achieving. Okay? So I just thought I'd share that. I thought that was important. So this is very important. So I thought I'd share that. Oh, and one more thing. And if you read my posts, I have nothing against police officers. I actually support them. I support the police officers, and I support the Black Lives Matter movement, because I don't lump people together. There's always the small percentage of the bad apples that ruin it for the rest. So That's why I always say all lives matter. But yes, so I support the police in general. But, you know, obviously not the pieces of crap that we've seen lately. So this is the message from Father, and he believes from the gnosis I received that the Black Lives Matter movement is positive for change. Okay? Satanic blessings.